Becky, thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Your fourth podcast for Independent Lichfield. So let's start by talking all about you. So tell us all about yourself.
At what point in my life am I starting? Do you want to just know about business or
yourself and your business? So what's your journey been to where you are now?
Okay, so my background's actually working with children, young people and families. So I spent a 20-year career working from primary schools through to schools, then getting to work with Barnardos. Spent 17 years working with them. And I think that's where I massively honed in on my people skills. People are the thing that just, I love all that connection, and obviously with Barnardos, it was a different side of things sometimes. It was not the darker side, but I guess you saw a side of the world that actually a lot of people don't. And my photography really was my kind of creative balance to that. In terms of photography, it's been one of those things that I think has been part of my life forever. I don't know what my dad's face looked like for most of his world, because it was always like at Christmas, birthdays, holidays, my dad just had the camera, to the point that when he got into video camera, he used to do cinefilm, and he used to do all of his own like film producing. So as a small child, I'd just have to sit in a dark room, not move, not do anything. But yeah, so when he went into the video world, he then had like the VHS backpack. Yeah. So I kind of thought to myself, I'm never going to do whatever my parents do. I want to be really unique and different. My mum's background is working with children. Okay. My dad's background is working, doing photography before he kind of then went into industrial work. I've had a career working with children, and I've now got a career working with photography. Yay me and being an individual.
Well, your photography is kind of both.
Well, that's the thing. So for me, the photography side, for working with Barnardos, from my frontline work to then being people's manager, that was my creative escapism. And I think I kind of fell into the wedding industry purely by accident. Like I say, my skill, I think, is people, working with people, managing emotions, getting emotions. And as I started to do more photography, a lot of my friends were at an age where they started to get married. Yeah. And they were looking for photographers for that natural, creative kind of style, and we're just hitting more and more of the traditional stand here, really formal stuff. So they started to say, could you do it? And I was like, I'm not doing someone's wedding, you're crazy, like that's massive. What happens if I mess it up?
Pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the end, I just sort of, after talk about like, lovely peer pressure, I did them, but I sort of did it as a wedding favour, and I just said I don't want.
It's your present.
Yeah, I don't want anything for it, because if I screw this up, then I don't want to be responsible. But actually, I just massively fell in love with it. I loved the buzz, the energy, capturing that, all those emotions that I guess I've seen and witnessed in that Barnardo side. It was a real happy balance, and it just, the styling, the dressing, the venues, the details, the families, the friends, everything, the party at the end kind of had me hooked. And so I did kind of the first one, and then, as you can imagine, friend number 2, friend of a friend of number 3, and so it started really to progress that way. So I was doing personal projects, but doing kind of favours for people, to a point that in my Barnardos career, I actually dropped being a manager full-time to being part-time, so that I could try and create a business. Only the day a week that I was at home, we moved house, it needed decorating, we got a dog. So the day a week basically turned into nothing to do with the business. And as you can imagine with charity work, year on year, you're kind of seeking for funding to continue the work. And unfortunately, with all the switch in government, less and less money became available. I ended up in the digital team in London. I'd designed the first Barnardos online platform, so they pinched me down there.
How ago was this?
How long ago? Yeah. About 18 months ago now. So whilst I was down there, unfortunately, my project, we found out that we were going to lose all the funding. So then my entire project, come the end of March, 2018, I think it is now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
sounds about right,
yeah.
That's about 18 months ago. Yeah.
Thank God. Basically, the whole project got shut down. We all got made redundant. And with a sort of 17, 20-year career with Bernardo's, I walked away with a little bit of redundancy money. And sort of thinking, what am I going to do next? I'm kind of the ultimate optimist person, and as sad as it was, and as much as I had staff around at my house and I was helping them get their next job, obviously I was busy thinking, what am I going to do? And doing this full time, seeing if I could create a business, was one of those kind of next steps that I knew for me personally I'd got to take. I'm not someone that wants to be hopefully 80, 90 and think, I wish I'd done that. So that's kind of, in a smallish nutshell, how I've got to where I am.
So how did you transition from leaving the job that you had, the full or part-time job that you had, to having this passion that then became your livelihood? How did you transition? What were the steps you had to take to get you in that space?
I think, to be dead honest, being redundant was the only way I was ever going to do it, because actually I'm a very emotionally driven person and I felt massively loyal to that team. But because I was the manager for Bernardo's, Bernardo's became more of a mini business than it was a charity, so I was doing the financing, the marketing. My job was to understand my community, to go for the funding that matched what needed to be put on the ground. And then when I was in the digital team, my job was to have a problem and figure out whether the solution we were going to go for was the right one. So I guess in terms of some of those initial transitions, and I'd come from the digital team, so I'd got a knowledge base of digital and how my audience, as I started to understand them, were using digital. So that transition for me was like, as soon as I knew the funding was gone, emotionally I could go, okay, I can park that now. But now I know I need to create a business, so I need a brand voice. I need to know who my ideal audience is, what my age groups are, what is my style, how do I word that, what keywords are going to tick other people's boxes. So not only imagery does that mean that I'm making you stop on Instagram or wherever, but then if you read the blurb, I know that I'm talking to you in the right way. I knew that I needed a website, so off I bundled to Wix, for which all of that now needs to be sorted. So I knew a little bit about like SEO and all that sort of stuff. So
did you do SEO in your day job then?
Not really. No. I just figured it out. I think I knew. I'd heard about it, and I'm not someone that's like, oh, what's that, and leaves it alone. I'm like, oh, what's that, and why do I need to know about it? And at the time, actually, Google were running the Google Garage in Birmingham, doing free stuff, so I just jumped on all of that, and was understanding that language in order to know that when I was doing the website, what search engine optimization keywords I needed to do, how I needed to get on board with what Google was looking for, and when it's spamming and when it's not. Honestly, what you learn as a business, you think you're just going to take photos.
Yeah.
No, you're doing so much more.
That's far too easy.
Yeah, and I think I was massively conscious that as a photographer particularly, I don't have a shop front. I don't have a studio. I've chosen not to have a studio. That's my style, is out there, you know, in my community, or out in the woods photographing children being children with their families, or at a wedding at their venue. So I think I knew the basics of a business, and I think it took me a good 6 months to figure, and I'm still figuring that out. But I knew enough around the fact that, okay, I'm Becky Tranter, photography, but my brand is Live Through a Lens, which is a great name because actually a million people have it. So I'm, this world of me being unique, I'm not. And then I just started to keep shooting. I was doing obviously the weddings, but in order to get more weddings I needed to get more weddings, so I started to say yes to everything because I needed good content, and I then started to hit the summer months and said to my friends with children, right, we're going to a lavender field or we're going to here because I just need some new content.
Yeah.
Exactly, but I'd got no intentions at the time to get into family photography. But that kind of, mainly I just wanted to do the weddings because that's what I'd been doing, and that's what I knew I'd got that fire in my belly, was passionate about. Silly, stupid me didn't make that connection of, hey, I've got a background of like 20 years working with children and families, I wonder what I could do if I blend the photography and that together. So when I was out doing like my lavender shoots, and there's a place over in Worcester called the Confetti Fields, which are amazing, they were on point with my style. They were bright, they were light, they were airy, they were different, and I just put those pictures as permission with my friends onto my social media pages, and it blew up. And everyone was like, because I think everyone had done studio work, everyone was looking for something different. And I think with all of my background of working with children, I was just able to get straight on their level from age 0 to age 13-ish. I was able just to get in and just get that kind of connection. With the little ones, it was like we're going on an adventure, pretty much like how we started with the older ones. It's then talking, getting them on board. And then, yeah, so that's kind of where the family photography came from. But for me, with my family photography, unless somebody specifically wants to go somewhere like Worcester to those specific places, I'm very much about the amount of beautiful places that we have in Lichfield, and actually trying to do some of that showcasing. So when I get booked for my outdoor locations, I give people a choice. And I've got a private gallery that people can just go and have a look at those images, and then they're like, oh, I like that kind of rawness, or I like autumn, can we go here?
So right, your feed, I'm just looking at your feed now, it's just really bright, fresh, vibrant.
Thank you.
So that's your style, yeah? That's your...
Yeah.
It's the style you want to go for, yeah?
Yeah, it's a little bit harder, I've found, going through the autumnal months, especially with weddings, because it's darker, the venues are darker, so trying to still get that brightness in is sometimes tricky, but it's also been quite challenging, which is quite good. But yeah, so I've just done an autumn shoot, which is just on the editing list of things. And that was down at Lemonsey Woods, which is beautiful.
We've learned a bit about your business, learned a bit about you and your journey to get to where you are today. What would you say is the best thing about running your own business?
For my days, A, you're your own boss. I think there's I know you're going to get to challenge, but there's the massive fear side of things of, is it going to work? For me, it's really exciting to see where this could go. I can, particularly with photography, I'm able to take my job anywhere. So like, we've just come back from the Lake Districts. If I really wanted to, I probably could have landed a gig in the Lake Districts and made then a holiday out of it. I guess in terms of, there's a massive element of freedom. The Bernardo's job was brilliant, but I worked in an office that had no windows and no fresh air. My day job is pretty much outside. You know, going to wedding venues that take me anywhere, meeting new people. I think, there's a whole freedom, and I know this sounds really corny, but there is a massive independent scene in Lichfield, and being part of that in my own business is massively exciting. You know, I'm this big in this big of a city, but actually working kind of like together and making, my Bernardo's job was very much about working with my community. So, but I was massively restricted in how I could do that because they'd got a particular way, which is their way and that's fine, but I get to make my own way and I get to explore my own environment and my own business and my own creativity.
Lots of great reasons to be self-employed and work for yourself. What are the challenges? What are the things that occasionally can keep you up at night?
How do I become visible in a world where I'm not? I don't have a shop front, and yes, I work my bottom off on social media because I know that's where my people are, but I never switch off. I'm working during the day, I'm editing during the day, in the evening, because I know my data, I know that's where my customers and clients are online.
Finish work.
So yeah, I'm then online, I'm responding to it. So I guess the challenges are you don't ever switch off. It's keeping things...
How do you try and switch off though? Have you got ways that you've tried to...
Yeah, I was going to go to the gym this morning, but I've been answering emails instead.
So you know what you need to do, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. When you're working for another business, when you've got a corporate, they tell you to switch off because they might, get sued if you get sick because
we have work hours. So
exactly, and I don't really. I guess some of the challenges are my family is my boyfriend and my dog, and actually trying to get that work-life balance. I actually thought was going to be really easy, and that's actually not. And I guess it's building a business from nothing, which is exciting, but you don't know what you don't know. So you're constantly, when you see somebody else growing their business, you're like, oh God, what am I not doing? And how do I know what to do when I don't know what to do? So you're constantly trying to evolve. But once again, going back to your community, I think if you work with people, you learn more and you get more. So I guess my whole way of approaching things if what is my challenge and how can I turn that challenge into something else. I think one of the biggest challenges as a photographer is there's thousands of us, so the biggest challenge is how do I get myself across that makes me and my business unique. I
that's
guess
part of your brand. So your feed, even on your Instagram, for example, you're going for a specific look, aren't you?
Yeah.
So if I'm interested in that look, you're definitely on my shortlist straight away because it's consistent and it's clear who you are and what you are.
Yeah, hopefully, but then I know there's other photographers out there that are exactly the same, so I guess that's why I try and bring my personality into it. I try on my social media to do live stories so that this is part of who I am.
Face behind the lens. So how do you talked about social media, how important that was. You just mentioned their stories, live videos rather. So how have you learned, what's your journey been in terms of learning how to use social media?
My days. Google, talking to other people, just paying attention. When particularly Instagram for me just became the go-to platform because I found Facebook really clunky, and I was still getting bookings from Facebook even though if I shared across to Instagram. So I just paid attention to the algorithms. Like at the moment I'm massively trying to figure out, I posted yesterday a picture of me and hashtag wise it's gone crackers, but if I posted a picture the day before and still used hashtags, you used unique hashtags because I know that if I use really big ones I'm lost, so I try and do a blend of both. I think yesterday's hashtags were about 700 views, the day before 7. So it's just, at the moment, I know everything's changing.
So you use data analysis quite a lot to see.
Yes, yeah. Also, I've joined a few forums.
Yeah.
There are people out there that are the expert on these things. Choose wisely. And yeah, it's just a constant, and I know like doing something like today, although it's massively important for our community to be showcasing, I know that joining forces with other people makes me more visible, and I know that that on social media that if other people are talking about you, then it helps increase your profile. So I guess it's just a constant, it's God love Google, really.
Yeah, and the fun thing with all social media is that they're constantly updating the algorithms as well and changing them. So it's an ever-learning journey.
I'm glad that you called it fun. I have a few other choice words that I sometimes might use.
Sarcasm. Yeah. Okay, so if we've got anyone looking down that lens now watching you talk to me,
God, lovely,
who's interested in following their passion, maybe just been made redundant, who knows, or is just maybe afraid of making that jump,
what
would your advice be to them?
A, do it. would be my first thing, but doing it in a way where you can be safe. So sit down and work out a business plan. Where do I want to? I find it easier to go, where do I want to get to, and then work backwards. Get yourself a marketing strategy, and if you don't know what that is, then Google it. In Lichfield, they are running a 2-day business course, and I can't remember the name of it, but if you speak to the district council, that's the sort of starting premise, and you can then, at the moment, you can access some funding through that, which is great for people. Marketing strategy, a business plan, get a brand, understand what it is you're trying to achieve, understand who you are, what your brand voice is.
How do you get a brand? That's a big question.
Right, well, I think depending on what kind of genre somebody is in, almost kind of like getting that mood board of like, what is your business about? So use like imagery. I think imagery at the moment is a massive content. So what is it? So is it about the client at the end? Is it about you as someone's PA? Is it about photography? And then just kind of test the market, really. So if you're thinking of doing a name, search to see how many other people have actually got that in your area, and then join forces with people, talk to other people, try and get almost like not a focus group, but get some friends and family and some independent people to say, you know, is this a gap in the market? Yeah. Could this work?
What do you think? It's research, basically, yeah?
Yeah, massively. There's a lot of research that you can I, as a photographer, just started to look for research on the internet and just found a whole host of stuff. So I knew that where I was price-wise, etc. I was kind of like on point. Don't undervalue yourself, whatever you do.
Yeah, because that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah,
where do you price yourself?
Exactly. Yeah. Do some stuff if you want to do some stuff for free, but you know, somebody once said to me, nothing's ever for free, you're doing it complimentary, because free holds no value. I think it's really, I think one of the challenges going back to it is really isolating. But I think if you're looking at this and you're wanting to start it up in Lichfield, there is a whole host of networking events. There's Nurture down the road at the Little Green Frog Cafe. You just have to search Lichfield Bid. There's you guys at, you know, the Independent Lichfield. There's the great thing about Lichfield, if you're going to start, it's the best place probably to start a business, because if you look around the amount of independent places, you're not bombarded by the big dominance. You're encouraged, so I think it's a healthy place to start. I don't know whether that's kind of helpful to anyone, but yeah, definitely I think, you know, finding that brand voice is the hardest thing, and I think what I did from an imagery point of view is I just got hold of a load of like wedding magazines, wedding brochures, wedding fairs, wedding venues, and I started to match a theme and then looked at kind of their wording and was able to associate myself with that, and that's where I started to kind of then get a brand voice. Having said all that, hopefully over December through to February I'm rebranding. So.